What's up, guys? Welcome to another Summoners War Chronicles video. In this video, I want to answer a lot of the questions that I usually get while I'm streaming Chronicles. I get a lot of questions pretty much asked to me all the time, and I want to answer in this video for the people that may not be in my streams and maybe watch my YouTube videos and need some help and guidance when it comes to Summoners War Chronicles. Thank you guys for all the love and appreciation for all the videos that I have. And I just want to create more content for the game because, like I said, I say all this all the time, I do love this game. I love it so much. I just want it to do good and I want it to be better. So if you like the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to like the video as well. We're trying to approach 1,000 subs on this channel. That'll be greatly appreciated. So if you enjoy Summoners War Chronicles content, please subscribe to the channel and let's get into the video. All right, so for starters, I'm going to answer probably the number one question I always get. What summoner do I choose? So everybody asks this question all the time. I get this question constantly in my stream. Hey Jug, I just started the game. What summoner should I choose? Is there a summoner that's clearly better than the others? And there is a kind of a two-part answer to that. The first part, to make it very simple, I would not choose Kina, and I'll get into why. But to be honest with you, the choices are literally between Orbia and Cleave. I'll start with the reason why probably not to choose Kina. There is nothing wrong with Kina, by the way. I'm not saying that Kina is like super weak or she's super terrible. She's actually not terrible. But the huge issue right now is that Kina has received a couple of nerfs as of like now, as of like pretty much like going into the game. Kina was kind of seen as like the weaker summoner from the beginning, but in the beginning of Chronicles, we actually had a lot of top Kina players that were on top of the ladder doing really great. But the problem was she's received 2 nerfs, and that's kind of dropped her in the totem pole as far as the summoners. Because when the game just started, they were all pretty much on an equal platform, to be honest with you. The only one I was a little bit above was pretty much like Cleave. Cleave was a little bit up because Cleave in Battlefield was disgusting. He could one-shot you, and it was pretty annoying, but not to get into that. But for the most part in the beginning, they were pretty much like, they were pretty similar. They were all pretty good. They all had their niches. They all had their strengths and weaknesses that made them, unique. And, if they fit your play style, then you could go with all 3 and you were totally fine. But now, it's about 6 months now since it's launched in NA, and now it's pretty much between Orbia and Cleave. So I play Orbia. As you can see, my other 2 summoners are even fully leveled up, but Orbia is. Like, I've been an Orbia player since day 1. I personally enjoy Orbia, but you have to just to give you like a kind of a look through the seeing glass when it comes to end game. So when you get to the later part of Summoners War Chronicles, like, Orbia is great. She's amazing in PvE, literally the best PvE summoner, bar none, because she's a damage dealer herself. So for most of the content, it's pretty much adding, like, you can have teams where essentially you have like 4 damage dealers and she's a damage dealer, whereas with the other summoners, they aren't really the damage dealers. Like, Cleave is a tank, so he's not really a damage dealer, so he's reliant on like the other 3 kind of be the damage dealer, or he may have to bring in a healer, where Orbia could just be like, I'm gonna walk in, nuke it, and walk out. Like, that's the great part about Orbia. Now when it comes to like Battlefield and when it comes to Brawl, which is like RTA, that's where it gets a little bit questionable. We have a lot of top Orbia players, but the thing is about Orbia is that their gameplay revolves a lot around you running, because they know Orbia does a lot of damage, there's a lot of debuffs, it's pretty annoying, so they do a lot of things to jump into Orbia as soon as possible. So if you're gonna play Orbia in the late game, be ready to start running. Be ready to start running around like crazy, because you want to avoid getting hit as much as possible, and that's just how it is when it comes to Orbia. Now when it comes to Cleave is a really, really good tank. Really, really good tank. He is definitely usable in the late game. People rely on Cleave, especially for like Twisted March, because he's a tank. He goes in front, he takes all the aggro, he gets debuff, he gets cleansed, he's all good. But for the most part, Cleave is really amazing late game. He's also really great in arena and brawl, because again, he can chase down Orbias. He can, as long as you have runes, you got a damage behind you. He's a great CC. He's annoying. He's very, very annoying. Is basically what I'm trying to get to. He's super freaking annoying, but he's really great in the late game if you build him up and you really focus on your tank stats and you build him up to be a perfect tank. to pretty much your play style. If you want to play aggressive, you can do that. If you want to play like super tank and just BCC, you could do that. Like, there's a lot of play styles when it comes to Cleve. Orbia, for the most part, is pretty like, you know, she's a damage dealer. That's all she can do. So you don't really build her anywhere else. You build her as a damage dealer, and that's pretty much all you go towards. Where Cleve, you know, there's a little bit of flexibility, but for the most part, he's just an annoying tank. So I would say if you were starting the game recently, I would right now. Things gonna change in the future. They are getting some skill changes. Like Kina is getting a skill change. I don't know if that'll bring her up to par. But for the most part, Orbia is great for PvE content. She makes PvE content really, really, really easy. A lot of people that aren't even Orbia mains are like, I'm just gonna make an Orbia because she makes PvE content really easy because she can just walk in, nuke stuff. Her dark staff can help her lifesteal. She's just stupid for PvE content, to be honest with you. And then Cliff, like I said, you could build him a lot of ways. He's also great in PvE content, not as good as Orbia, but he's still great at PvE content. Kina is probably the worst for PvE content, especially when it comes to like Galaga. She is the worst because she's ultra team reliant. She doesn't do any damage. She's pretty much all utility. She doesn't really heal too much. So it's just all bad for her. It's just all bad for her. So at the moment, I would say if you were just getting into the game, I would say like probably don't do Kina, probably do Orbi and Cleve. Like I said, things could change in the future or in a couple of months. You never know. We may have some changes. We may have some busts. We don't know yet. But for the most part, I would just avoid Orbia and Cleve entirely if you were coming into the game, if you were recently playing the game. So that's answer that question. On to the next question. Now the next question is, Jugga just started the game. What nat 5s do I focus on? So I always give the same advice pretty much every single time. If you were just starting the game, or if you're like kind of getting, or even if you're like a little bit of a vet, if you don't know this, nat 5s are very, very, very expensive to invest into. Unless you're, and my advice is generally for people that aren't whales. I'm not a whale. I'm a pretty low ball spender. I do spend, but I'm pretty low ball. I don't like drop hundreds and hundreds and hundreds like a lot of people in this game do. But if you are a free to play player or a person that is very low spending, I would say if anything, you want to make sure that you do not focus on too many nat 5s in the beginning. I am very far in the game. I don't have that many A15. I only have 2. I technically had 3 at one point. A15 nat 5s, and it is extremely hard to get a unit or a nat 5 A15 because if you're not willing, because you're pretty much relying on Altar Blessing to get those duplicates, or if they came from an event. So the reason why I have 2 A15s is literally because they came from the events. Like as you can see, right, I'll show you right now. So my Bastet and my Caramir are literally A15 because of the events, and on top of that, they're super duper expensive. Just to show you, if I were to restore, look how much it costs. 4 million, pretty much 4.5 million gold. It's a lot of gold, and that's just for A15. We're not talking about the runes and stuff like that. Like building units in this game is very expensive, so you want to make sure in the beginning that you have very core nat 3s. I have a God Squad video. I recommend that video all the time because it really shows that you can do this game without investing too much into the nat 5s. There are a couple of good nat 3s in the game. The ones I recommend are always Shannon, Kona, Acelia, Helia. There's a lot of great nat 3s in the game. I still use them to this day. So for the most part, I can show you, like I said, Helia, Shannon, Kona, Helia, I would say build a Lulu. There's also Yeti. There's also Rakaja if you're doing Dark Borbos. There's Sheddin for Seal. Like you see a lot of nat 3s I still use because they're very low investment. There's Sheddin. There goes Acelia. Like these units I use all the time. Well, not these two, but the rest I use like pretty much like all the time because of the fact that it's just like you don't want to invest in too many nat 5s in the beginning because again they're very expensive. So I will say this though, because obviously you're gonna start working on some nat 5s. If you are doing your selective summon, so if you just started the game or you're just beginning, I always recommend that you start with either right now, because a lot has changed. Right now, my top recommendations for selective summon are Argon, Sekhmet, and probably Annabelle. That's probably my top 3. These 3 are pretty much used even to this day, because they're really, really good. They're usually segments pretty much there because of the fact that it's just like if you came around global, you're in the best at event. But if the event is not, if you did the event and you got a whole bunch of extras, segment is really great because you can just toss them in the segment and use them as Devilmon, which is basically just like it's free Devilmon. Might as well do it. So, but my top recommendation will still always be Argon. If I was just starting the game today, I would not stop until I got Argon, because Argon is used everywhere. He's used in all PvE content, mainly PvE, not PvP, PvE content. Because what's the most important in this game is knocking out your PvE content, and you want to make sure that you have a really solid squad for PvE, and you can do that literally with just like Kona, Shannon, and Argon, because that team provides everything you need. Even if you're just starting, even for the most part, you've had to use Argon, because in the beginning, like even for me, when I just started the game, I used a lot of Shannon, Kona, and Acelia. I used that all the time. Again, the video proves it. I used it for the first 2 weeks of the game while I was building up Nat 5s on the side, because my Nat 3 was just purely better. They were just literally, they were higher power. They were built. I wasn't filling any content, so I just used them. But for the most part, like I said, I would always start with Argon. If you don't know who Argon is the Wind Vampire. Where is he on this list? I could just show him there, but here you go. Here's Argon. Argon's really good. He's one of the best DPS monsters in the game. He doesn't require crazy runes to get started, but once you get him built, he does insane DPS. He's really, really great, and I recommend, if you are just starting the game and you have the time and you don't mind doing it, I would not stop until I get Argon. I would not stop until I got him. The second recommendation, like I said, is Segment. Segment's really good for PvE content, and she's also like really, really good for like for PvP content. She's not bad for there as well. Like if you just started and you're going into some defenses and they have buffs, she ships those buffs and she does good damage. So I would recommend her as well. She's she's really good, actually. She's still good to this day. She's been nerfed like 2-3 times too. It's kind of crazy, but she's still pretty good. But she's talking about my second recommendation. Let's say you're running into you're not getting Argon, but you're getting, like, you ran into a segment. It's not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal to take her. She's actually pretty good. She's not bad at all. Like I said, even through the nerfs that she's had, she's still pretty solid. So I would still take her. And then, like I said, the third recommendation is probably Annabelle. The reason why is because she's a really great cleanser, especially later in the game. She's a monster that people still use to this day in raids, like the higher raids. You can use it for literally every single raid. You can also you can kind of use her in PvE, like PvP content. I wouldn't recommend it, but she's really great for PvE content. She's a really great healer. She has defense down on skill 3. Like, she pretty much has everything you want in a cleanser healer, and you will be using her in the later games. So those are the top 3 I would recommend. I wouldn't recommend anything else past that. If you run into maybe like Brandia, but I still would recommend that. I would say only take one of these 3. I would say primarily go for Argon. If I were anybody, I would primarily go for Argon. And then while you're working on your Nat 3s and anything like that, have Argon built in the background. And then pretty much when Argon's built up and you have you start maxing out his awakenings and things like that, he will get so much better. He'll be so great for you in PvE content, and you'll be cruising 1000%. So those are Nat 5s I recommend for newer players if they just started as of right now. This could change in the future, but for right now, those are the top 3 I would recommend. Another small tidbit question I usually get is if you are a newer player, they always ask, okay, I want to spend, but I'm not a whale. Like, what are the best packs to buy? I always recommend 2 packs, 1000%. Please make sure you get the Summons Pass. The Summons Pass is the best pass. Probably it's like Daily Pack 1 in Sky Arena, but on crack. It's really, really good. Mainly because of the fact that you have this pass where you get all these free rewards, but that's not why you get it. It's literally not why. The reason why you get it is because when you go to Kairos and Path of Growth, you get double drops on your first 6 runs. Well, in Kairos it's 3, but in Path of Growth it's 6. But you get double drops on that every single day. So it's literally, if you do 7 days of work, it's literally 14 days of work. So it's really, really efficient, and it allows you to get all stackable material and get up there pretty fast. If you're a free-to-play player and you're not buying the pass, and you're like a person that literally spent $10 to get the pass, you're literally twice ahead of a free-to-play player, which is insane for not spending that much. It's only $10, so it's crazy like how cheap this is, and the fact that it gives you so much value. That's literally the reason why you get it. And you want to know where it's at? It's right here in the premium pass. They're both right here. The summoners pass is if you're like leveling up other characters, which if they have hot time, you should be doing that because you get free rewards for that. But for the most part, if you just play on one character, which I primarily do, I don't really play too much about other two characters. Make sure you get the passes. They're really good. The arena pass as well. The arena pass is really great because as you get power, you don't really have to touch your arena that much. Like I get Master 2 pretty much every single weekend, and all I do is this. All I do is go in, I hit quick battle, I call it a day. Like I don't go into battles too much, and I get Master 2. And you see Master 2, you get 1,400 crystals, you get 5 scrolls, and you get medallions as well. So if anything, like I said, get these passes because they're just super efficient. And with the arena pass, you get even better stuff. I think the arena pass is a little bit better, just a little bit, mainly because you get sky stones, you get summer sky stones from the past, and at the end you get the Devilmon. You also get a legendary scroll. But you mainly want to do this for the Rahil orders, the sky stones. That's super efficient. You need all of those because as when you get later into the game, you kind of realize how much you want sky stones and Rahil orders. They're gonna save you in a lot of situations, especially if you want to get gold, especially if you want to level up equipment. These things are very important in the later ends of the game. So for the most part, if you were to spend money, please get these 2 passes. Bar none. You don't really have to go to spend on much else, if I'm being quite honest with you. Just get these 2 passes and then make sure you're farming every single day or doing your first 3 in Kairos and your first 6 in Path of Growth every single day because they're really good. These passes are just bar none for the price of them being $10, which is not that bad, honestly. So $20 for like a month. Like you get so much out of it, which I just highly recommend it. Past that, if you want to go ham on some scrolls, and that's up to you. I always recommend that spend responsibly. You don't have to go too crazy in this game. You just buy the passes and that's it. I still think one of the best packs of the game is Devilmon pack, mainly because if you just spend the 51, it's 10,000 crystals, and no pack gives you this. No pack gives you 10,000 crystals. It's a lot of crystals, and plus you will need Devilmon. So I still say this is a pack I recommend people buy if you were to buy. But this is high on my list, mainly because you get pretty much all the necessities for just keep up your farm. If you obviously want to get units and things like that, do that as well. Also make sure you get in these as well, because it's for 500 crystals for both. You get 500 crystals for this one, 500 crystals for this one. You get 12 Path of Growth tickets and 12 Kairos tickets, which are great because they're more it's basically you're saving crystals by getting this every single week. So make sure you get these 2 every single week if you have the crystals. But for the most part, I wouldn't recommend too much past that. If you're just like an average low ball spender. If you're a high spender, go ham, buy those scrolls if you want. Go, do what you want to do. But let's say you're a person that's like, hey, I got like $50 to spend. Like I just want to buy a couple packs here and there. Make sure you get the passes, and then past that, like I said, I would say 1,000% get this pack. Get the $50 one. It's really good for the crystals you get and for the amount you're spending. Technically, you look at all the other, I swear to God, look at all the other packs. They're like $50. Okay, also never buy this, by the way. Don't do this if you're not a whale. Ignore this. Don't even look at it. But like right here, like the same price, like pretty much $50. And look how much crystals you get. It's 7,000 less crystals. Yes, you get 90 mystical scrolls, but for progression wise, it's just a lot better to get the 10,000 crystals because you allow you to refresh your raids. It'll allow you to refresh your Path of Growth, and those all go towards progression. Then when you get to a comfortable point and you want to spend for scrolls, go ahead. But for progression purposes, I would say get the pack that has the most crystals because they'll allow you to refresh. So those are packs I would recommend. But like I said, for the most part, make sure you get the passes. The passes are way too important. They're too good. They're too good to pass up. Irony. But they're really good. So make sure you always get these. Do not miss out on them. Another question I get all the time is, what should I farm? Now, this question is multi-layered, but I'm gonna keep it pretty simple. If I was just starting, I would, like me personally, I would only farm Tear Glands. I think Tear Glands is the best dungeon by far. If you're trying to progress and get better, just farm Tear Glands. It's really good. If you're also trying to get tank runes for your monster, there's also Queen Spider's Nest. It's a little bit annoying, but I would say these are probably my top 2 dungeons to farm. Me personally, like Borbo Ghost is okay, but there's not a lot of units that pretty much utilize Swift because it's attack speed based. And even though Foresight is really great, you don't really have to farm this dungeon. I would say farm it to 15 to get the rewards, but for the most part, I will focus on these 2 dungeons because these are really, really important dungeons, building your tank units and also building your damage dealing units. Laboratory of Madness, you will have to farm because you're going to need these for weapon crafting, but for the most part, you're just starting the game or you're just trying to get progression, or you're trying to get better, my recommendation is pretty much always Tear Glands and Queen Spiders, and I would have farmed nothing else because like no one really hits this dungeon shrine, mainly because it's for bombers and just bombers aren't relevant. Maybe if bombers become relevant, this dungeon will become more relevant, but until then, since bombers aren't that relevant, I wouldn't even touch it. I just farm these 2. Don't farm nothing else, just go for these. For the most part, I would say Tear Glands more than others because there's a lot of units that will need Rage Blade, so you should actually farm this the most. And if you're trying to build up a tank, like build up your tanks here and there just to make them a little bit tanky, then maybe spend a week or 2, like maybe like back and forth, like do 1 here, 1 there, like do 1 day of Tear Glands, 1 day of Queen Spiders, 1 day of Tear Glands, 1 day of Queen Spiders, switch it up. But for the most part, I always say Tear Glands and Queen Spiders. When it comes to subjugation, you're only farming this honestly for your transcendence material, which is also important. Make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're paying attention to the transcendence. My RB is fully transcendent, but make sure you're looking at those the green, the red, and the purple. Make sure you know how much you need, and then if you're kind of close to transcending, maybe focus on that so that you can hit that next level of transcending. But like I said, if we're talking about dungeons, I would always farm these 2 and nothing else and call it a day. Also, do not sleep on Path of Training. Path of Training is really important. If you're broke, if you're trying to get gold, you should really farm Path of Training. You will need these. If you don't have an Argon, you could probably luck second to an Argon. The chances of hitting this is extremely low, but if you don't have Argon, make sure you farm in this. I would have farmed these 2. At all, I would only be farming this because that way you can probably try to get an Argon piece, or just if you don't have Argon, try to get Argon. That this is the way to do it. It's extremely low, but hey, a chance is a chance. So do that as well. But don't sleep with Path of Training. Path of Training is really good, especially if you're broke. If you're really, really low on gold, just spend your day here, or spend a week here. You won't regret it because you get all the material that you need out of it. Unknown Scrolls, which are good because those give you power. These, because you'll need them to level up your units. And then, like I said, you get a chance at Argon. Don't sleep on that. So don't sleep with Path of Training if you're broke. But if we're talking about runes, these 2, call it a day. Don't do nothing else. Another small question I get usually for new players is like, what should I do when I just start? And the first part is pretty much complete the story. Complete the story, making sure you're knocking out your area dungeons as well. Area dungeons are exceptional if you haven't been doing this, or if you haven't done this at all. Make sure you knock all these out. They're pretty good. Make sure you knock out some monster story. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get all the monster stories I kind of neglected. I'm gonna get the vampire hunter, and if you don't have a Naomi, please get a Naomi, because if you need a damage dealer in the beginning, she's amazing. So don't sleep on Naomi. She's still really, really good. If you don't have like a really easy PvE damage dealer, she's amazing. Still one of the best, especially if you don't have an Argon. So make sure you get her as well. So make sure you knock out some monster story, get some monsters in your belt. You don't have to focus on them, but just get them in your team, or just get them into your inventory. Terrible way to say it. They're monsters. They're not really like, they're not really tools. Anyways, you know what I mean. Just get them so that way you can have them at your disposal, and make sure I would say, if anything, like I said, get the Martial Cat, because Martial Cat's pretty good. Get Lynn's pretty good. Get Karamit's pretty good. This is primarily for gold. If you're broke and you need some money, do this one. I forgot how much you get. I think it's like 5 million. I'm not saying it's probably less. I think it's like 2.5. I don't know, but you get a lot of gold from it. So focus on it as well if you're broke. She's not bad for early story. I mean, you only pretty much get here if you're stuck on story when you're trying to deal with Karambit. I forgot which level it was. It's a while ago, sorry. But for the most part, like I said, like the main priorities is, I would say, get Karambit. Karambit's good, especially if you're trying to work your way towards White Castle. Not White Castle. Well, White Castle's fine, and also what is it? Naraka. That's mainly where you use them. And then, like I said, get Naomi, because she's a great PvE damage dealer. She's a 4-star, easy to build, easy to get, and easy to get CLS for. And I would say focus on that as well. But for the most part, just complete your story. Make sure you look at your area exploration. Make sure you're knocking these out. A lot of free rewards you get from this. You got LD scrolls, you got legendary scrolls. Make sure you're knocking this as well. Gold. You also get reforge. You get restoration stones. You get a lot of good stuff. So make sure you're knocking these out so that you can reap all the free rewards that you can use, because in this game material is like, it's hard to get sometimes, so it's good to knock out everything you can that gives you material, whether it's crystals, scrolls, XP potions, gold, all that. Make sure you're knocking these out, because it's really important, especially if you're a newer player. Get on this. Make sure you're knocking these out. But yeah, if you're just starting and you're trying to figure out what to do and just begin, like, knock out your story. Do that as well. It'll help you out. And the last question I want to answer is the question I get probably the second most compared to the first question, is how do I break the barrier? Now, what I mean by that is, like, what people always say, I'm stuck at 200,000, how do I get to 300,000? I'm stuck at 300,000, how do I get to 400,000? I'm stuck at 400,000, how do I get to 500,000? And those questions kind of vary because it kind of depends on, like, what you're doing at the time. But usually breaking the barrier is pretty much on your summoner. You want to make sure that you're always trying to improve your summoner, because your summoner is literally where you get your most power from, bar none. Not a lot of your monsters will exceed your summoner. So for the most part, like I said, just focus on your summoner. Make sure you're doing your raids. Make sure you're trying to work on your equipment. And also that pretty much includes knocking out your professions. A lot of people try to avoid this area because of the fact that it looks very daunting sometimes, because it's like, oh, I got to do all this. But this place is important because you're gonna need these things to pretty much like improve your power. I have 2 power guides on my channel, and you can look at those, but for the most part, like I said, it's pretty much just, it's here. It's really here. This is where a lot of people are neglecting, and this is why you aren't getting more power, is because you're neglecting this area right here. Please make sure you do this, because a lot of things in this area pretty much give you material and give you things that increase your power. So if you have your summoner and you have your mons, you basically are missing out on, like, you know, little trinkets so you can put in your runes, and also just upgrading your weapons. Like getting blacksmithing 7 is really important, because that right there alone pretty much like ups your summoner, because you're pretty much upping the gear. Like you see with my summoner, she's basically like her weapons are 6-star, like 3 6-star weapons. You have a 6-star marble, 6-star earring, like these, like 6-star bracelet. These are the stuff that help you increase your power, and also really make sure you're holding on to the stats. Percentage stats are always going to be better on your summoner, because of the fact that your summoner has a really good base stats, so percentage stats are just always going to be better. So just making sure that you improve your summoner's gear. Like if you're, you know, Orbia, you obviously want crit rate, crit damage, attack, accuracy. Those things are pretty important. If you are Cleave, or Cleave and Kina, you pretty much want tank stats. You want HP, defense. Like those stats are just what you're going to focus on, and what you're going to primarily go towards when you're trying to increase your power on your summoner. So when you're trying to increase your power, look at all the things that you could do, and one of them is transcending. I talked about that earlier. Make sure you're collecting materials, the material that you need to transcend your character. But for the most part, stop neglecting this area. Do not neglect this. Make sure you are knocking out all this stuff, making sure you are going here, like, okay, how can I upgrade my weapon? What do I need to upgrade my weapon? What do I do? Like, go to alchemy, you know, making sure you're crafting these materials that you can put on your runes, crafting these right here, which you put on your weapons. Like, if you look at my weapons, they're the same way. They have like little things on here. This increases your power because it's stats for your monster. So my attacks get bonus 3.9% attack, bonus of 5.6 HP, and 4.6 accuracy. That all increases my power. So making sure you're putting these on all your weapons, including your trinkets as well, because your trinkets, I have one missing here, so I can get more power. If I get in a blue one, I can throw it on there, get more power. So making sure you put that on your gear is what's important. So you gotta really make sure you're focusing on that. And I think that's the main reason why a lot of people are just gaining power, is because they're not doing their professions and they're kind of ignoring it. Because again, I think it's daunting to them, and it's like, That's a lot of things. But hey, you gotta go out there, you gotta hit them rocks, you gotta farm them plants, you gotta do all of that. So that, because these are the things that help you gain power. So if you want to break the wall, start focusing here, start knocking out everything here, and then crafting things that can slowly help you gain power and help you get up to the higher raids, because these are the areas that help you break into the later game raids, especially if you're trying to go from Foggy to White Castle, White Castle to Boiling Waterfall, Boiling Waterfall to Twisted Marsh, because Twisted Marsh is the epitome, and you gotta be 390 power. And how to get 390 power is pretty much doing all your raids, making sure you're crafting everything, making sure you're knocking out your professions, doing all the small things that help you gain power. The thing is also, this kind of, when you're doing all this, it costs a lot of money. So make sure you're not trying to waste your money on things that won't help you. Make sure you're using your money that very smart, so that way you don't go broke for anything useless. That pretty much means like just don't build too many monsters, don't go ham. This is mainly for the non-whales, for the people that are low spending. It is very important that you spend your money wisely. I know you probably heard that from your mom or dad a couple times, but make sure you spend your money wisely, because that's super important, especially if you're trying to get more power and you want to be broke all the time. And I will say this, you will be broke. It's going to happen. So that's why it's important to make sure that you go here, you don't spend too much money, be smart with your money, have a budget. I'm gonna say that once because it sounds so cringe, but it's the truth. Make sure you have a budget. Make sure you know what you're gonna focus your money into, so that way it's always gonna be efficient. And like I said, get used to being here, because you're gonna get broke. You're gonna need awakening material. You're gonna need so much stuff. You're gonna need a lot of things to basically get better at this game, and it pretty much comes with you just making sure you're spending your money wisely. So the main thing, if you're neglecting this area, stop it, go here, see what you gotta do to start upping the levels and getting to everything to 7. You don't have to worry about master. Master is pretty much like, it's time getting anyways, and it costs a lot, but for the most part, try to get, I would say, if you're what should I focus on first? I say blacksmithing first, then alchemy, and then processing and cooking. Cooking you do last, because cooking is very easy, but for the most part, get blacksmithing to 7 and get alchemy to 7 and call it a day. But yeah, I'll end it there. This is a long video. I know people don't like long videos, but I'm trying to make sure to get all the advice out there so people can get all the help they need. But if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like. If you have any more questions, drop it in the comment section. I do read my comments. I try to do the best I can to help people out when it comes to any content in the game. I will be doing a Twisted March help guide. I haven't done it yet because I'm still kind of understanding the raid, but for the most part, it will be coming out next week for 100% for sure. But for the most part, like I said, if you enjoyed it, give me a like, I appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.